Even if you don't support it, you can't ignore it. Even if you had an army on your side, you can't destroy it. We not ready for the smoke. We looking for it. When we hit the streets, we'll be so deep the door, you can't ignore it. Even if you don't support it, we can't ignore it. Even if you had an army on your side, you can't destroy it. We not ready for the smoke. We looking for it. When we hit the streets, we'll be so deep the door, you can't ignore it. You can act like you don't.
We are not a hate group. We are not affiliated with any other Israelite group. Israel United in Christ is a nonviolent Bible-based movement. We do not advocate or condone any acts of violence against any race, ethnicity, or gender. We advise that if anyone hears or knows of any plots to cause harm to anyone or to break the laws of the land, you must contact the proper authority to bring awareness to any possible threat as stated in Leviticus 5:1.
Hey, Shalom Israel. Welcome to another edition of Precept Upon Precept. We are your late show, okay? Before we start off, do us a favor. So, Micah, can you get that PayPal? Y'all check that out, all right? Donate to the Booster Club. Why? Because we are going 12 tribes worldwide. We all over the world. Not just Passover missions are going out. There's so many missions we lost track, okay? And your donations that the Most High put in your spirit to help us travel the world is most appreciated. And we thank all you faithful brothers and sisters. Many of you who do not even, may not live close to congregation, and you still show your faith by putting in those bricks. So we thank you. So without further ado, we're going to go to our very own Officer Micah with the Watchman Report. Stick around.
Hey, Shalom Israel, Most High in Christ. Bless. There's a lot going on in the world, so we're going to get right into it. All right, Trump announces travel ban and restrictions on 19 countries set to go into effect on Monday. He at it, y'all. He wide open and sideways. Next article. Ukraine says the drones that hit Russian aircraft used AI to find and strike their targets when they lost signal. So, hey, look, they still must be behind the Most High. He ain't playing. Let's keep rolling. All right, Trump orders inquiry into Biden's action, alleging cognitive decline. So he said, hey, yo, he said Biden's slow. Next article. Trump and Musk trade insults as row erupts in public view. Hey, it's starting to come unraveled. He's saying that, hey, I don't agree with what Trump doing. So, hey, he got the money to disagree. I'm going to see how that play out. Harvard files legal challenge over Trump's ban on foreign students. Overseas admitted students wait. So they still waiting to get into these colleges because they need their student loans. They need that money. Musk-Trump breakup puts billions in SpaceX contracts at risk. Jolting U.S. space program. So, hey, pocket's about to get light, so things are starting to turn up. And this includes the Watchman Report.
Am I right? All right. All right, shalom, y'all. Welcome back. So, like we always start the show after Watchman Report, we take a look at our thumbnail for tonight's show, AI-generated thumbnail. We have, let's see here, where we at? Episode 166. So, who wants to go over this thumbnail?
I got you. So, we got NATO facing off with Russia. What you see is the NATO's armies facing off with Russia's army, because the title is NATO Moves East Yet Again. God sets the theater for war. So what you see is war in the background with the head of NATO, their Secretary General Gene Sorensen, facing off with Vladimir Putin, because war is about to pop off, y'all.
All right, so y'all, we're going to get right into the show. So check it out. Yeah, I understand. Yep, we're not going to go in that order, but I appreciate you setting that up like that. That's our tech guy, Akiem. He's short-staffed tonight, so we're going to try to take it easy on. Now, first thing I want to do is it's on tonight's content. Let me look at it real quick. All in general. Okay, let me see real quick. Let me see some precept upon precept. While we wait, do me a favor and get what we go to every week. Revelation 17, verse 15 or 16. Because what we're seeing here tonight in this show, you're going to find out that NATO would appear to be unifying, because what they're doing is they're calling for a large portion of each European country's GDP, gross domestic product, to be increased for the military budget. You would say, well, they're going to solidify, be strong as a result of that. NATO is going to be even stronger than with the U.S., right? That's not what's going to happen. As much as it may seem, it's not going to happen. And we're going to show you that tonight. There's going to be little traces of that. So read Revelation 17. It starts with, I think it's 16, but look at 15 first.
Yes, sir. Revelation chapter 17, verse 15. And he said unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues.
Right. That's talking about, go up to verse 1.
Yes, sir. Verse 1. And there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, come hither.
You go to 4.
Verse 4. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication.
Right. Now 5.
Verse 5. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth.
Why is the United States, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots? Because every indoctrination of corruption and evil starts here. Gender fluidity didn't start in Russia, okay? Mutilation, sexual operations with children without the parental consent started here, okay? All of the things with, and by the way, disclaimer, any of our brothers and sisters that are in homosexuality, it's not an attack on any of y'all. It's just that it's wrong to steal. It's wrong to lay down with another man if you're a man, vice versa with a woman. So all these things started here. This is how we know this is Babylon the Great, mother of all harlots, right? With the guise of the Statue of Liberty, the land of the free, right? Okay. Now go to 17.
Verse 17.
15. Where you at, 15?
Yes, sir. Verse 15. And he said unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth.
The waters where thou sawest, who's the whore? Babylon the Great. That's the whore. Read on.
Are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues.
When you read in the book of Daniel, it talks about the toes were on the feet were part clay and part iron or something like that. And you would have strength of the military, but you would have the weakness of the fracturing of society. That's what's going on. So now get to verse 16. Yes.
Yes, sir. Verse 16. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast.
So the 10 horns which were on the beast, which is the 7 heads, read.
These shall hate the whore.
How would they hate the whore? If they were on the same beast, apart, they're a part of each other. How are you going to hate part of yourself? Let's say, for example, okay, I got 10 fingers. They are representing in me. They're part of me. They do what I want to do, right? Now, the 10 fingers or the horns, think about a horn on a sheep, on a ram. They're part of it, right? A deer, a moose, the antlers, same thing, horns. They're part of it. What is going to make them hate them that was a part of them? And we're going to find out. Read on.
Yes, sir. And shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire.
Here's the point. We never read 17. This is the point. Read.
Verse 17. For God had put in their hearts.
Read it right. Read it again.
Yes, sir. For God had put
read it again.
For God
read
had put in their hearts to fulfill his will.
So what they're trying to do right now, Pete Hegseth, whatever the hell his name is, they're all trying to build NATO up, to make NATO one force and war ready. It doesn't matter what they do. God is going to put it in their heart to fulfill NATO breaking off from the U.S. and then beefing. Right. God's going to fulfill that. And you're going to see tonight's show, there's little pieces of that are going on. Putin's response, do me a favor. I need to look at the list real quick. Let me see. I want the part where it talks about, I'm sorry. Somebody say something real quick. I got to find this.
Hey, let me get Isaiah chapter 34 and verse 1. Because all this, like Cap just brought out, it says it's the Lord's will to fulfill these things. What's coming, the things that's coming is showing us how close we are to the end of the world. Read this.
Isaiah chapter 34, verse 1. Come near, ye nations, to hear, and hearken, ye people. Let the earth hear, and all that is therein, the world and all things that come forth of it.
Read on.
For the indignation of the Lord is upon all nations.
That's the point right now. The indignation of the Lord is upon all these nations. Read on.
And his fury upon all their armies. He had utterly destroyed them. He had delivered them to the slaughter.
And this is what is coming to happen. All of these, this is the beginning of the woes to come. When the scriptures talk about nation shall come up against nation in Matthew chapter 24. This is what the Lord is preparing us for to come. He's setting the stage for us to get our minds right, showing us the beginnings of these things to happen.
Right. And when you read in Romans 9, very good point. When you read in Romans 9, all of Pharaoh's team, his counselors are like, Pharaoh, they just whooped our ass. They put the plagues in us. Yo, let them go. And then he did let them go. But then the Lord hardened his heart to do his will. It's going to be the same thing. Because right now you'd be like, wow, well, we have to read this article. This is the one. You're correct. We're going to show you. It says, I want the first one. Article, it says Sky News, right? Is that it? Donald Trump? Okay. We're going to read this article because this is going to give the illusion that NATO is stronger than ever because they're trying to create this unified front towards military spending and military readiness. Read that, please.
Ukraine war latest. Putin's response to air base attacks won't be pretty.
So later on, in probably 15, 20 minutes, we're going to show you footage of the major drone strike. And what you're going to understand is a lot of y'all sleeping, including me until 3 days ago. The attack that Ukraine did was a proxy war. It was a proxy move. And it was Britain and the United States special secret societies, CIA, MIS, SAS is Britain. They all worked together, and they've been planning it for 18 months, this mission, this back in the Biden era. This could never have been done by the Ukraine alone, never in a million years. Why do I say all that? Because, read on.
Trump warns as Russian ambassador blames UK.
Right. So the Russian ambassador, a little bit later, I'm going to show you a video of that. He blames the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom, remember, is the father. The father of the United States is the United Kingdom. Okay, that's where they learned their war from. Okay, read on.
Donald Trump has issued a warning about Moscow's response to Ukraine's bombers' attack.
By the way, this is why this is a hot topic. Right now, as in 32 minutes ago, an hour ago, Russia is bombing the out of the Ukraine. Go Google, don't just go to CBS. Look at like Al Jazeera, Australia. It's the white news agencies that are not in this country. They are carrying out major missions, decimating, and they're going to decimate the Ukraine because of what they did. Read on.
Which Russia's UK ambassador has blamed on Britain. Meanwhile, NATO's chief says the alliance has agreed on new capability, targets after U.S. pressure. Catch up on the latest on the Ukraine war
here. Can
here.
we see what he's reading? Okay, I'm sorry. Is that it? Okay, I got you. Oh, okay.
Analysis: path to ending war has changed direction in the past week.
Why? Because they were in arrangements. The U.S. was talking to Russia, and they were trying. Then all of a sudden, this happens. They tried to kill Putin with his helicopter convoy was attacked by drones. They nearly killed him, and now this happens where they. This is the thing you got to understand, and this is why it's very surprising you don't see it. They attacked the nuclear bombers. It was part of the whole nuclear triad. Russia wrote a standard. If you, and we covered in this show, if you, the Ukraine, attacks through the backing of a nuclear power, the UK is a major nuclear power. The US is a major nuclear power. They wrote it in their nuclear armament declaration. If you attack us with the backing, which is a proxy war, remember proxy war, powerful nations use front nations to fight their bidding, that Russia would deem it necessary or possible that they can use nuclear bombing in retaliation. They wrote all that out. And so now Russia's being put in a corner because if they don't do something, right, they're going to be seen as weak, and they're not weak. That's why they bombed with the, was it the, what's the name of that thing they hit? Haresneg? There's a conventional warhead that they hit, like Haresneg. They, say it again? Orisnik? Okay, Orisnik. That came up into the satellite, came down, and it hit like an ICBM with conventional warheads, and they decimated things. And the whole world was talking about it. The U.S., they're saying that they're 5 years, Russia is 5 years ahead of technology than we are. Russia is going to hit all type of targets with major this week. All right, read on.
Reacting to that interview with the Russian ambassador, our international affairs editor, Dominic Waghorn, has said the path to ending the war has changed direction in the past week.
Right.
I think we're moving away from where we were a few weeks ago, when the direction of travel seemed to be towards some kind of talks and possibly a ceasefire.
Right, because Trump wants the ceasefire, but what you're going to find is that there are people that are undermining Donald Trump, and whether he ignorantly is playing it out or whether he really doesn't know, they're doing it anyways. Scroll down a little bit. Let me see something. Hold up. Okay. Yes, what Ukraine did against this airbase.
What Ukraine did against this airbase, it makes it clear they do have cards to play. They could win this war with enough support from the European allies.
They told on themselves, the UK and Germany, which you're going to find out, is behind the funding and behind the intelligence to be able to do an operation like that. Read on.
And they've got to keep the Europeans believing in that possibility.
Okay, scroll down real quick. I think this is going to be it. A little bit more. Okay, so hold on. Let's see. Okay, scroll down. Let me see. Blah 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 blah. Putin said there would be a response. Okay, where it says in quotation marks, Putin said.
Putin said there would be a response. He also said this also to President Trump, but it is up to the Ministry of Defense to decide when and how it is going to happen.
So get me Proverbs 15, verse 28. Donald Trump goes on, tweets about national strategies for the whole world to see. Vladimir Putin, he doesn't show his emotions. He doesn't announce what his next move is going to be. He has safety in counsel. Is it Proverbs 15, 28, with much advice you make war? Putin is talking to his generals. He's talking to everybody around him, and they're deciding what they're going to do, but they are going to respond militarily. This is what a leader is supposed to do. Read. Unless it's, look up where it says.
20 and 18 make war.
Yes, that's the one.
Proverbs 20 and 18.
Yes, sir. It's the book of Proverbs, chapter 20, verse, you say 18. Every purpose is established by counsel.
So if you're going to plan a retaliatory strike, you don't just go off your emotion. Oh, he didn't. He hasn't even. They've started to attack tonight, and this was 3-4 days ago it happened. Read on.
And with good advice, make war.
With good advice, make war. That's what he's doing, Vladimir Putin. He's getting good advice from his generals that are in the front, different areas of the battle, before he makes a decision, all right? And he has the power to drop nuclear bombs. Let's get out of that article. There's too much in that.
And Cap, to your point, it
Go ahead.
shows how smart and how intelligent Putin is, because he's not making no decisions out of haste.
Right.
He's not tooting to nobody's horn. He playing by his own record, and it might seem as though they are losing, but they winning this war. There's nothing that Trump or Ukraine or Britain or NATO could do to stop Russia, and it shows the incompetence of Trump, because his people is undermining him. For them to say that he don't know what's going on, like you say, either he ignorant or they going behind his back. But how can he be ignorant when it's the CIA who's going in foreign lands and doing this thing? They're getting their orders from up top, so he knows what's going on.
Remember, we did a few shows back. Putin said if they keep encroaching their borders with closer and closer to our country, they're going to retaliate. And then he just went ghost. He went quiet. And then later on, President Trump comes out and said, Putin's killing people. I don't understand him. I've known him for years, when all of a sudden he's killing people. You know why he's killing people. He has to defend his people.
Right. We're gonna come back to where it says article with aerial photos. We're gonna come back to that, but I want to go next to Al Jazeera. It says U.S. presses NATO to agree to a defense spending hike. It's an article with Pete Hegseth. He's the Secretary of Defense. He's the young guy, former Marine. He's got like a SWAT alleged Nazi tattoo, SWAT sticker. We're gonna read about this. Is important. Read.
U.S. presses NATO to agree defense spending hike. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has said he thinks that the commitment to the increased budget will happen this month.
Do me a favor. Look up GDP. What is GDP? Okay, everyone should know. You got to be familiar with these terms. It's not a black acronym that everybody pays attention to, but we need to learn this, because the current GDP that European countries pay is 2%, where the U.S. pays over, I think, 65% for NATO's budget, right? Now, read that.
Gross domestic product. Definition: gross domestic product, GDP, is the standard measure of the value added created through the production of goods and services in a country.
In a what?
In a country during a certain period.
During a certain period. GDP is the gross domestic product for a country. So when you say if I have 10% and I go up to 20%, that's a huge, huge increase. So we're going to read this article. It should tell us, yeah, here it goes. Read.
United States Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth has passed NATO members
Pressed. You need glasses, bro? You might need some glasses. It says pressed.
Yes,
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you said passed. I'm sorry.
Has pressed NATO members to agree to Donald Trump's demand for a major increase in defense spending ahead of summit later this month.
Ahead of a summit. Come on.
The U.S. president has said NATO allies should boost investment in defense to 5% of gross domestic product.
About a year ago, maybe a little bit more, Donald Trump mentioned NATO doesn't want to pay. They got to pay to play. Yep. And he got hundreds of billions of dollars because they were not paying. So now Trump, again, it looks like they're coming back together. The horns are on the head, right? They're all part of each other. You would figure they're going to agree to a budget. That's not going to happen. And you're going to see. Read on. You don't need to shut it back to me. Just leave it on here.
The U.S. president has said NATO allies should boost investment in defense to 5% of gross domestic product, GDP, up from the current target of 2%.
So if you go from 2% GDP of a nation up to 4%, you've doubled it. They have doubled in half. That's what they're asking for. Why? Because the U.S. is fitting most of the bill. Where does that come from? U.S. alleged tax funding, right? Matter of fact, Mississippi, I don't know if y'all noticed, Mississippi just did away with payroll tax. Either payroll tax or state tax. I can't remember. State tax. Is it state tax? They just did away with it. And if you're going to start, it's not the last state. They're going to make some changes. Okay? Read on.
To be an alliance, you got to be more than flags. You got to be formations. You got to be more than conferences. You need to be keep combat ready capabilities. Hegseth said as he arrived for a meeting of defense ministers in Brussels on Thursday. We're here to continue the work that President Trump started.
So, why? Because the other presidents let them milk the U.S. for money. Now they're like, put your money where your mouth is. 2% was hard for you. We're doubling it in a half. Let's go 5%. No more flags and meetings. We have all this. Now we're going to build up for warfare capability. Why? Because God is doing this as the ultimate Most High puppet master. Because what's going to happen is Europe is going to become strong. They're going to realize, just like the Nord Stream pipeline, Russia was really never the enemy. It was always the United States. They're going to form together, and they're going to all band against the U.S. That's why Israel is doing everything it's doing. Everyone's going to come against them. Read on.
Which is a commitment to 5% defense spending across this alliance, which we think will happen. Hegseth said, adding, it has to happen by the summit at The Hague later this month.
It has to happen at the summit, right? Okay.
In an attempt to compromise with the new target, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte has proposed that members of the military alliance boost defense spending to 3 to 5% of GDP.
3.5. So he's like, nah, we don't want to go up all the way to 5. Let's just go up to 3.5% from 2. Okay, read on.
And commit a further 1.5% to broader security-related spending.
Right. The point is that there's a little bit of buck back. He's like 5. He's like, nah, 3.5. We'll wait, see how it goes. Read on.
We have to go farther and we have to go faster. Rutte told reporters on Wednesday. A new defense investment plan will be at the heart of the NATO summit in The Hague, he added.
It's a little dry. Is that video playable? Okay, let's play that video. Because what do you see in the background? You see flags. It's all NATO is a facade. It really is a shell. And they're not ready for war with Russia. Maybe you can. I don't know if you can. Okay. So we're going to look. Okay. I think this is in Brussels, Belgium.
Posture Britain's armed forces to be made battle ready, its nuclear deterrent to receive special attention, with billions spent on a dozen new nuclear attack submarines and upgrading nuclear warheads. Prime Minister Keir Starmer said his government's plan to rearm would make Britain safer and stronger for years to come.
We are moving to warfighting readiness as the central purpose of our armed forces.
So the strongest nations that you're going to find in NATO, obviously besides the United States, Germany is a very strong, and the UK as well as France. These are the big players that are inside of NATO. And this is what we're going to find later on is that Russia has evidence that Great Britain was heavily involved in the planning and the carrying out of the attack, where they attacked Russia's nuclear armament. That's a very serious. And later on, we're going to show you how serious this is. Play on.
When we are being directly threatened by states with advanced military forces.
Now, pause. I got to keep interrupting. He says we're being directly threatened by forces with nuclear, right? That's because they're in a proxy war with Russia. Russia's not doing anything to the UK. Right. But because of that, Russia made a declaration. If you help anybody, they said we can touch London. London is the biggest city in England, right? The UK. They, with non-nuclear missiles, can shoot, like the Haresneg, they can shoot ICBM-style launch projectile missiles and then hit with conventional warheads, and there's nothing, they cannot stop it with any missiles. They cannot stop it. They can touch the U.S. with that. And so what we're going to find is that Great Britain later on, matter of fact, I'm going to show you one sec. They're preparing for World War III right now. Okay? Get out of this one. Go down. Let me look at this. I got to get to my screen. Go down to. Oh, son of a.
Well, I kept looking for that. There was a saying when you were in Esau's military. Anytime they have a Democratic Party in there, they're like, okay, the military, they get lax. Anytime the Republicans get in there, the first thing that they do is they give the military a raise. Because why? They're about to use them. That's what they generally do. Now you got DJ Trump in office. Guess what? He's one of the Republicans. Two wings of the same bird. But they are looking to start wars. That's why everybody else they got to beef up their army now.
Absolutely. Look, let's go to, it's not numbered, but it says, one of the last says, Britain preparing for a world war. It's a short video. I want that one. And then the one above it, it says, also making his military war ready. Or did we just do that one? No, that's the same video. Just go to the one I said. I don't know which one it is.
And I forgot why I heard this at, but I heard somebody say that they have to now put Ukraine inside of NATO now. And I already heard that Russia said that's one thing that they can't do. I forgot where I heard that, but I heard that this week.
Oh, it was on the show. We were going over it because they told them, because really think about it. Ukraine has already started to encroach on their battlefield. They're pushing the border. They told NATO years ago to say, hey, look, if you keep doing this, we're going to retaliate. That's just what it is.
Remember they tried that BS with Kazakhstan.
Yeah, that's it.
Pull up a world map real quick. Kazakhstan is a giant country that shares a border. And they tried that garbage with the Russian southern border, and Russians stomped them out. Right in the middle, yellow country. Look at the size. Ukraine is a large country. Kazakhstan is giant. So they started that in Kazakhstan. The Russians destroyed and it sent troops in, crushed that movement. Now you've got Ukraine, which is pink or red, directly west of Kazakhstan, and this is where the battle is now. And so the reason why we talked about before, it is very important for the Ukraine, because where they're beefing at is in eastern Ukraine, western Russia, because access to the Black Sea is very important, because you've got Turkey, that little canal that gets you to the Mediterranean Sea. That's a very important strategic place for Russia. Plus, many of the people in eastern Russia, western Russia, the border is eastern Ukraine, many of them are Russians who speak Russian, obviously. So there's a whole thing with Zelensky that he's not illegitimate. He was put up, and he is a puppet. He's a puppet U.S. government. That's exactly what he is. Go to that video. That's not it. I like that. There's one that says Britain is preparing. Okay. And that's not it either. So if you look, you said we're in general, right? Okay. And in general, if you go down, all right. Yes. No. Great Britain preparing for World War. Go where it says maps. If you look at where it says maps, right? Directly above that one. Yeah. And then after that, then come back to this one at routers. All right? Wait a minute.
Hey, while they getting that, can I get Daniel chapter 4, verse 17? Because all of this, like the title says, the Most High is setting the theater for war. Read that.
This is the book of Daniel, chapter 4, verse 17. This matter is by the decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and set it up over it the basis of men.
So all of this is being done by the Most High to show y'all that he's in control, and he's going to give the kingdom back to us. All we got to do is keep the commandments. Like it says, pray and watch. That's what we got to do, because all this is being done by the Most High to set the stage for war.
Yes. Now, Britain behind, I'm sorry, the one I just said. All right. So,
Britain is preparing for a direct military attack by Russia. Keir Starmer has ordered a review of secret war plans, which are spelled out in the Homeland Defence Plans. It reveals how the government would respond to a strike by a hostile foreign state. It's being updated by officials in the government after a series of threats against the UK from the Kremlin. That includes planning for if critical national infrastructure like power stations were to be targeted, how public services would be maintained, and contingency planning for sheltering government ministers and the royal family. A simulation in January found a successful attack was likely to result in fatalities for civilians and emergency service workers, while causing serious economic damage and disruption to essential services. So is it time we take the threat seriously?
so now go to the very next one where it says, not the German, right above the German Prime Minister, it says, Britain behind the curtain. It's a 3-minute video from Sky News where a Russian ambassador is speaking English and he's saying, look, we know that Great Britain, and it's not the British citizens that's doing it. It's the SAS, which is their version of the CIA that does things behind. Matter of fact, they have had the CIA and the SAS has had operatives in Russia since decades ago that have been there waiting and dispelling information back and forth. So it's an article and a video, right? Yeah, let's play the video. Pay attention. He says a lot. Y'all at home.
A very serious escalation. That is why President Putin called yesterday to President Trump, and they discussed it, the necessity. And our hope that we will get a reaction from London as well. Because I will tell you, such kind of attack involves, of course, provision of very high technology, so-called geospace data, which is only can be done by those who has it in possession, and this is London and Washington. I don't believe that Americans, that has been denied by President Trump, definitely.
What he's saying is that the only forces that have the technology to be able to launch, he's kind of speaking, obviously his English is not great, that he knows that, he mentions London, he mentions Washington, that the powers and the technology, Ukraine does not have that. They know, and he's the representative, diplomatic, foreign prime minister. Not what is he called? He's the guy the ambassador. He's the guy that has the office in London. He's a Russian ambassador to London. So he's trying to be diplomatic about it, but he's like, we know that it was you. Ukraine can't do. We know it was you, and we know it was Washington. Right? Play on.
But it has not been denied by London. We perfectly know how much London is involved, how deeply British forces are involved in working together with Ukrainian in targeting Crimean Bridge, for instance, targeting other
he mentioned
issues.
Because they bombed a major bridge in Crimea, and it was a heavy transport sector, and they bombed that, and the Ukraine had support from the UK and or the US. Play on.
Provision of satellite information, not only but also data that is needed to launch missiles, flight data, so-called. That is why we, of course, expect a certain reaction from London.
You describe what happened at the weekend as a serious escalation, and then on the other hand, you say Ukraine is losing this war. Do you and does Moscow view what happened at the weekend as a humiliation?
No. Well, there are some people who are saying that, of course, there should be more precautions taken on about the airfields, and that is correct.
NATO is looking at upping it to 5%.
Pause. That's why I wanted to show that, because again, they're making this imagery. NATO is strong. They're going to beat Russia, right? And we're going to raise the GDP per country from 2 to 5%. But the head of the NATO was like, whoa, slow down. Let's try 3.5% and maybe later on. So there's a little bit of division like that. They're trying to put it as NATO is a force to be reckoned with, but the reality is they do not have the military power to touch Russia at all. Okay? Play on.
Defense review here in this
show me.
country,
Let's just
they're
keep playing.
also
I'll
obviously
talk.
trying to meet those targets because one of the major threats they see is from Russia.
Yeah, it is fantastic, and I like it. It is. Your Minister of Defense has said that they have daily threat from Russia in the sea, in the air, and on the earth. I very much would like to see these threats. What does he mean? Does he mean
just
that,
said Russia's not making any threats to the UK. That's a bunch of BS. That's why he smiled like that. It is a front because they want to get they want the land. They want to take parts of land. That's why when you go into 1990, the dissolving, let me say that, of the Soviet Union broke apart. The Soviet Union was much bigger than Russia. It broke it down to all these stand countries. They were all together, and now they broke apart. The U.S. was involved in all of that. Now they're doing it even more. The Ukraine is the last line, and this is where they're calling no more after this, okay? So he's like, look, he's being diplomatic about it. He's like, there's no, Russia's not threatening you at all. What are you talking about, right? Play on.
He also said, your Prime Minister, that the level of life of working people has downgraded because of threat from Russia. What does he mean? Is it a safe passage through La Manche or English Channel or by our ships is diminishing level of life here in Britain, or something else? This story is as old as the world. When the government is not capable to deal with internal economics and cannot provide for its population the normal conditions of life, then it is trying to find an outside threat.
You hear what he said? Yep. Go ahead, Mike, get into it.
He said, if you can't provide for what you're getting based upon for your country, you got to go outside somewhere else to get those resources. That's pretty well. I think that's what he said.
No, that's what he's saying. But what they do is this: what Esau does, right? Russia is the largest country by far. They've got crazy resources. Even when they had over 1,000 sanctions, they thrived. The UK is a little bitty landmass. That's why they have to go to Africa. That's why they have to go pillage all around the earth. He's saying when the quality of life goes down, they got to blame something to make it up. But it is true. And let's blame Russia.
Right.
He's like, I'm the prime minister. I'm the ambassador in London. We don't make threats, and everybody knows it. So this is where he's coming now. This is important because it says the GDP. Now, go to, hang on a sec.
And that's what they like to do. That's what mainstream news like to do. They like to make this propaganda against Russia so evil. Russia always the bad guy because they want to go to war with Russia. Meanwhile, only thing Russia has always did was defend themselves. That's all. Because Russia ain't trying to take over Ukraine. Russia not trying to, gain more land mass. They only defending themselves. And really, Putin could do way more than what he can do.
Absolutely.
You know?
Putin this war could have been over. If he had launched a full-on assault, they could have toppled Kremlin, killed their government, but he's not trying to do that. Because remember, the Ukraine, all those countries were very integrated within the Soviet Union. And there's a lot of people that are families that are on that border. He doesn't want to kill two-generation Russians that live in New York. He doesn't want to kill his people. He has the power to do so. He proved it with say the name again, Akiem, the missile.
Oreshnik.
He proved it with the Oreshnik. That was one missile. The destruction that it did, he proved, and they got hundreds of those. Why didn't he just shoot 20 of them? Because he's actually a merciful, patient man. Now, something else is going on. Get German Prime Minister. So again, we've covered a lot of y'all that don't watch the show. Germany has the largest GDP and the largest economy in all of Europe. Germany is the most economically strong nation in NATO. The UK's right up there, right? Don't get me wrong, UK's up there. The German, is it the Chancellor, Prime Minister, I forget who it is, he is met the same way Zelensky went to the White House. He's sitting down with Donald Trump. This is very recently, and they're going to discuss. Trump is that dude's tall as hell. Trump's tall. That dude's like 6'6". Trump is going to make an analogy just to show you how proud Esau is, man. It's Watch the conversation that this German representative who flew all the way to Washington, D.C. to meet with President Trump, watch what he says.
Is again in a very strong position to do something on this war and ending this war. So let's talk about what we can do jointly, and we are ready to do what we can. And you know that we gave support to Ukraine, and that we are looking for more pressure on Russia. The European Union did, and we should talk about that.
You know, I gave the analogy yesterday when I spoke to President Putin. I had a 2-hour and 15-minute call with him. Sometimes, and this is me speaking maybe in a negative sense, but sometimes you see two young children fighting like crazy. They hate each other and they're fighting in a park. And you try and pull them apart. They don't want to be pulled. Sometimes you're better off letting them fight for a while.
Now pause real quick. Later on, you're going to find out why. The call that Putin had with Trump, Trump has never stood in that position. He's taken a position of a less powerful. He's like, look, after you got the call, Putin said him straight to the point. He said, look, maybe they need just to fight it out. Just let them fight it out, and then we're in the middle of negotiations. Let them fight it out, because Russia is on the verge of using intercontinental ballistic missiles. Russia can hit California, Washington, D.C., Florida, anywhere they want, they can hit in the world. They're not playing. The proxy war with Britain and the U.S. through the Ukraine, they attacked their nuclear triad. They attacked the planes that can drop nuclear bombs. They attacked them with intelligence and been planning for a year and a half. Putin said, if the Ukraine, through a power that is a nuclear power, attacks inside Russians' soil, talking about the nuclear triad, not hitting a shack in the woods in some remote part of Russia, hitting that would invoke nuclear war. That is what we're dealing with right now. Now, the Lord holding it all back, Trump has never took this position with Russia. He's always been tough and strong. Putin, it'd be very bad. It'd be very bad for Putin if he does that. Listen, go back 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago. Watch how he talks about Putin. He's not talking about that now. He said, look, Putin and the Ukraine, they're like kids. Sometimes you got to let them fight it out. What he's saying is that he knows Russia's going to do their thing. Ukraine can't do a damn thing against Russia. He knows that. He's changed. For him to say that, it's a position of, he's not speaking from a position of power. Trump is not speaking from a position of power when he's speaking right now. Vladimir Putin has the cards.
Yeah, Cap, it's like he's saying it's like two kids fighting. It's like, you know, when you got like that little brother, you put your hand on his head and he just swinging underneath your head trying to hit you. That's essentially what Putin's doing to Ukraine. Trump knows this, and what he's hoping, I'm telling you what he's probably hoping. I want to see how many of their resources they're gonna waste with this little battle here. I guarantee he's hoping and praying that weakens Russia in some kind of way. So let's, without further ado, if you have not seen it, go to Sky News. We're going to look at the actual video, because it was a significant attack that they did. The media sensationalized it. Russia's saying, yeah, we took a couple of plane losses, but the way that the media, the mainstream, is saying, oh, Ukraine is now has a chance to win the war. No, they don't. So let's look at it's Sky News, it says at the top. Sky News short video. Where do you have them labeled? I want to watch. I want to look at that. Okay. All right. I got you. So this is a video where they're going to show you bird's eye of the drones that actually dropped armaments on hundreds of millions of dollars each plane cost. And you're going to look, it was kind of cool. I was wondering why they did that. On top of these birds, what they do is they put a bunch of tires. And what it's supposed to do, the tires are supposed to jam or prevent satellites from picking up, because it breaks up the imagery from space. Take a look at this.
It is a humiliating blow for Vladimir Putin. Ukraine launching a surprise and large-scale drone attack, destroying more than 40 Russian bomber planes worth an estimated $11 billion. President Volodymyr Zelensky has celebrated the fleet's wipeout, saying it will, quote, go down in history. Our Europe correspondent Jacqueline Robson reports.
Pause. Real quick. Can you rewind it just a little bit? I want you to look at the wings of the plane. It's got a bunch of tires on it. Go back a little bit more. Go back to the beginning. I'll show. No, not the drone. The big planes. I'll show.
$11 billion. President.
Pause right there. Yep. You see all the tires? Mm-hmm. Those are tires that they put on the planes. It's actually because when the radar and the satellite picks it up, they can see imagery. The tires block the imagery from seeing the metal, so they can't really pick up on that. That's why they put it on all these bombers. I said, why would they do that? And so the intelligence, this is the important thing, the intelligence that they had to strike, they knew exactly, they actually, some of the drones were striking at the fuel points. So when they hit the armaments and they dropped the bombs near the fuel source, that's what it caused it to implode like that. This was research. They had someone that knew the anatomy of the plane. They knew where to hit. They've been studying it for years. And these people that were doing this were inside the country of Russia. They were inside Russia, working either not KGB, SAS, CIA, all that had been embedded there with intelligence from people in the Ukraine to plan all that. And what they did is they brought these vans in that had containers that were hollowed out. They parked it right in the airbase, remote control it, opened it up, and the drones, masses of drones flew out. So all that was coordinated from inside Russia. They didn't fly them from the Ukraine. They had the drones on the Russian airbase, and they unleashed them all, okay? It might say that, play.
Zelensky has celebrated the fleet's wipeout, saying it will, quote, go down in history. Our Europe correspondent Jacqueline Robson reports the attacks were unleashed deep inside 4 of Moscow's air bases.
Hey,
look at those tires.
Oh, yeah. I was just about to say that, we looking at this, and put it back on the screen. We looking at this, but we not really seeing the significance of it. This is actually some spooky stuff that's going on right here, because Ukraine is playing with Russia, and this goes to show you that the powers that be in America, they are war hungry, and that's how America make their money. That's how a lot of countries make their money, off of war, and they playing around. They gonna get it with Russia.
Right.
Big facts, brother. Now, play on. Because we're going to go to break soon.
In the planning, this audacious attack took Russia by complete surprise and inflicted maximum damage. Codenamed Operation Spider's Web, the attack was personally authorised and supervised by Volodymyr Zelensky. 117 drones were smuggled into Russia, hidden in the roof cavity of small wooden...
That's the roof of a container. Now, here's the thing. Let's not get it twisted. The news is, they're actually reporting correctly. You're not flying a drone from the Ukraine. Pull up the map of Western Russia. I asked you to get, please. To fly a drone from the Ukraine all the way to it's not happening. They had all of this embedded. And this operation took a long time to plan. And Zelensky has no clue and no power and no intel to do what the hell this happened. Moscow is in the purple, okay? So Moscow, it is relatively close, but do me a favor. Type in, what is the distance from Moscow to the Ukraine border? Moscow to the Ukraine border. Moscow to the Ukraine border. You're going to see that this was an inside job, and they attacked their nuclear triad. Wait till you after the break when you hear Colonel McGregor and Scott Ritter. These guys, they're going to tell it like it is. 520. So 523 miles. So as soon as this is what happened. As soon as they got those containers on, they opened it, and within 3 minutes they were on those planes. Do you know how much coordination it takes to be able to get those boxes close enough to that air base? And to be able to show, to be able to prove that you could do that, is they got, I don't have this video, they got Russian citizens that are taking pictures of the drones coming, looks like coming right out of the airfield and bombing them. They're like, what the hell is going on? It looks like it was Russian sabotage. No, it wasn't. Inside job. This is why the ambassador to London is like, listen, we know that you were involved, Great Britain. We know that the U.S. was involved. They don't have the satellite capacity. They don't have the ability and the intelligence to pull that off. This is why Vladimir Putin is like, look, nuclear warfare is on the table. Okay, go back to the video, and we're almost done.
Which were then trucked to 4 separate Russian airfields. The roofs of those sheds were opened by remote, allowing the drones to take off, hitting the airfields simultaneously.
So look at this. I'm going to show you something. And I forgot that part. They had what we call a semi, 18-wheeler trailer. They were able to get that onto a Russian air base. Now, I don't know, it was an army. You try to get on a Marine Corps base, you've been on a Marine Corps base because where you was at was joint operations. Camp Lejeune, they don't play any games. No. So in Russia don't play games. For you to get that, look at a 3-axle in the back, to get that in there, they had to have clearances that they got. There's going to be consequences. There's going to be a trail going back to who was that, who signed off on this. There's a whole paperwork trail. And they opened that up, and it was 4 different Russian bases. 4 of them. Think about that. And you attack the planes that are responsible for part of the nuclear triad. Now, finish it off, and then we're going to go to break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to really dive into some of the meat of this.
The airfields simultaneously, destroying 40 of Russia's nuclear-capable bombers, aircraft it had used to send long-range missiles into Ukraine. Kyiv says the assault destroyed about a third of Moscow's fleet of missile carriers, putting the damage it inflicted around 11 billion.
Think about this. How would you... Kyiv is the capital of Ukraine. They say Washington, they talk about U.S. London, they talk about England. How would they know that they destroyed, or to make the claim you've destroyed 1/3 of their bombers? Well, number one, they know how many bombers they have because they've got intel in there to know exactly. They planned the route. They planned how to get the trucks in. They planned how to get the remote control, where they're going to fly. They practiced the routes. They knew where to hit the bombers to make them blow up, was near the fuel source. All of that was coordinated, and there's a trail. And Putin's like, this is why I pulled the scripture out. He says, with good advice, make war. He's like, he's not reacting. He's like, okay. You know, he looked at all of the logbooks for the base for that day. You know, he looked at what was the license plates? Who signed off on this coming in? And if you go back far enough, they're going to catch whoever it is, right?
You go into a military base, they got a camera right there. Like the minute your truck drive up there, they already tracking you. They got you. They recording who's in the truck, who's at the gate, who got they already know.
And the guys that sent them, they may have been ignorant to the fact what they was carrying. Because remember, they opened the roofs of those containers with remote control. So there was off base that did that. The point is that this is Scott Ritter's going to say it in a little bit. You have to put in perspective. Imagine that somebody came. I'll give you an example. Groton, Connecticut is a major U.S. Navy submarine base. I know I've spent many times there. On that base, they have a submarine school, and they have nuclear ships that go in and out of the harbor for the Long Island Sound. If you imagine that Russia, or let's use Mexico, Mexico sent fighters in and bombed and took out some of our subs and our planes, and they were being backed by, let's say, Russia and China, for example, and the U.S. found that out, they would strike a preemptive major, they would do everything to blow those countries up and declare war. Putin is very patient. And the reason why is because God is allowing him to be patient for the time. That's when Revelation 17, verse 17, it said, read that again, 17:17. Listen, I'm telling y'all, if this was the U.S., Trump would have already hit buttons. Yep. There would have already been problems. Listen to what God said. And Thomas brought that out in Isaiah. It said a very similar thing. Listen to what he's saying. So we know that the 10 horns will hate the whore. Why? Why? Right now, they're connected. 5% GDP. NATO's coming together. How is that possible? And now this is going to happen. Read.
Revelation chapter 17, verse 17. For God had put in their hearts to fulfill his will.
God had put in their hearts, meaning the 10 horns put it in their heart to fulfill his will. To do what? To hate the whore that they were attached to, right? And all of this is going down. You're seeing it, right? This week is major. Read on.
And to agree and give their
king. No, go back. There's something in that. Read it again.
Yes, sir. Revelation chapter 17, verse 17. For God had put in their hearts.
Who's their hearts? In verse 16, that's not talking about the whore. It's talking about the 10 horns. Read verse 16 again. Y'all, look, the Most High showing us. Read.
Verse 16. And the 10 horns.
Who?
The 10 horns.
The subject of verse 17 is the 10 horns. Read on.
Which thou sawest upon the beast.
There was a part and attached to America. Through what? NATO, the EU, all of these things. Read on. Policies, philosophies. Read on.
These shall hate the whore.
These, the 10 horns, will hate the whore. Now jump to 17.
Verse 17.
Watch this.
For God had put in their hearts.
Who? The great whore? No, the 10 horns. That's talking about Germany, France, the UK. Those are the 10 horns. The EU, NATO. Read on.
For God had put in their hearts.
To do what?
To fulfill his will.
So that's why when Michael brought out in Daniel, the will of God is going to be done. So we just got to see this. He's putting in Putin's spirit to be very patient. Trump to say the dumbest, stupidest things like, look, they're like children and let them fight. You know, that's something they got to fight it out. Let them fight it out. We'll get back. The guy's is a nut job, right? But he's the commander-in-chief of the whole. That's why the Russians like, we can't take this guy seriously. All right, so look, what time is 10:45? What we're going to do now is we're going to go to break. Thank you for staying with us. We're going to go to break. We're going to come back from break. We don't have kingdom music or we're going to, Akim, you could run a couple more commercials. Can you make it a longer break? Okay. Okay. We're going to take an intermission. We're going to come back with the second part of the show where we're really going to dive into some timestamp videos that are going to really show you the magnitude of what happened. So we introduced it, we layered it, we showed you with the GDP about NATO and how they appear to be stronger. We showed you the footage of the bombing and the implications thereof. Now we're going to show you what top military strategists are going to say about this, because we're on the verge of a nuclear war, and they're not talking about this. The mainstream media is not making a deal like it should. So y'all stick around. We'll be back in about 10 minutes. Shalom.
Hey, Shalom Israel. Most High in Christ bless. Why do you subscribe? IUIC New Orleans, subscribe. Go to our YouTube page. Help us to grow. Comment, like, share. What's going on? Make it happen.
This is what Memphis should be about. Black brothers coming together and uniting.
And being positive, productive unity. Each one teach one. See, we come together, we become a power to be reckoned with.
Right.
Real.
Look at that.
Israel United in Christ was started in 2003 by Bishop Nathaniel. One of the quotes Bishop Nathaniel loved to say is, it's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. That's a quote by Frederick Douglass. I want to begin by clearing up a common misconception. Israel United in Christ is not a hate group. Time and time again, whenever a so-called pro-black group rises up to fight for their people, when we focus on uplifting our own, we are labeled as hate. So y'all understand that we are not a hate group. This label is not only false, but it is a deliberate tactic to turn the masses away from the truth and from unity. Unity! Unity!
just something wrong with my body just to see this here. This is so beautiful. I'm gonna have to try to join this more because this is all about people. It really is. We are so divided now. We need to come together.
We're going to take the whole army of God on Bill Street once again. Look, they don't know what about to hit them. Yesterday, Esau was messing with us, telling us we can't teach here, we can't teach there, and we still taught in the places he told us not to teach. And now he's going to see us come back like on steroids today. It's going down, man. But this the battle for the souls of Memphis. Yes, sir. Shalom.
Everybody sitting up there talking about they tired of the violence in the community. So we out here for the community. We is the symbol of change in the community. We are ex-gangbangers. We are ex-drug dealers. We are ex-whoremongers. At one point in time, we didn't love our wives. Some of the men didn't take care of their children. But guess what? Now they got healthy households and healthy marriages. The violence in Memphis and other cities is not the fault of our youth. They are the product of broken systems and absent leadership. The real issues lies with adults who have failed to guide, protect, and teach the next generation. The Christian church, as it was handed down to us during slavery, has kept us asleep. I said it. The Christian church has kept us asleep. The scripture says in Proverbs chapter 23 verse 7, for as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. If we think of ourselves as less than, as criminals, as nobodies, that is what we become. But we reclaim our true identity as Israelites, as kings and queens, as God chose.
Memphis should be about. Black brothers coming together and uniting.
And being positive and productive unity. Each one teach one. See, we come together, we become a power to be reckoned with.
Right.
Real.
What you say?
Israel United in Christ was started in 2003 by Bishop Nathaniel. One of the quotes Bishop Nathaniel loved to say is, it's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. That's a quote by Frederick Douglass. I want to begin by clearing up a common misconception. Israel United in Christ is not a hate group. Time and time again, whenever a so-called pro-black group rises up to fight for their people, when we focus on uplifting our own, we are labeled as hate. So y'all understand that we are not a hate group. This label is not only false, but it is a deliberate tactic to turn the masses away from the truth and from unity. Unity! Unity! Unity!
It's just something wrong with my body just to see this here. This is so beautiful. I'm gonna have to try to join this more because this is all about people. It really is. We are so divided now. We need to come together.
We're going to take the whole army of God on Bill Street once again. Look, they don't know what about to hit them. Yesterday, Esau was messing with us, telling us we can't teach here, we can't teach there, and we still taught in the places he told us not to teach. And now he's going to see us come back like on steroids today. It's going down, man. But this the battle for the souls of Memphis. Yes, sir. Shalom.
Everybody sitting up there talking about they tired of the violence in the community. So we out here for the community. We is the symbol of change in the community. We are ex-gangbangers. We are ex-drug dealers. We are ex-whoremongers. At one point in time, we didn't love our wives. Some of the men didn't take care of their children. But guess what? Now they got healthy households and healthy marriages. The violence in Memphis and other cities is not the fault of our youth. They are the product of broken systems and absent leadership. The real issues lies with adults who have failed to guide, protect, and teach the next generation. The Christian church, as it was handed down to us during slavery, has kept us asleep. I said it. The Christian church has kept us asleep. The scripture says in Proverbs chapter 23, verse 7, for as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. If we think of ourselves as less than, as criminals, as nobodies, that is what we become. But we reclaim our true identity as Israelites, as kings and queens, as God chosen.
All praises. Welcome back, y'all. Back to the thumbnail. Second part of the show presents NATO moves east yet again. Why yet again? Because they've been doing it for the past 35 years. God sets the theater for war. And we don't know when the war is going to happen. We don't know when the end is coming, but we know that we're in the very last days. Now, this is actually, it's like they do financial advice midway through. This is redacted. But he does a very good job at gauging, for purposes for his audience, for how to shift your investments around. But it's very good reporting. And I got 2 or 3 timestamps we're going to go to, so we can jump right into it.
With President Trump on the phone. That conversation went very interestingly. Let's bring in Colonel Rob Maness, the host of the Rob Maness Show, to talk about that, plus NATO and so much more today. And where do things stand right now? It seems like things are spiraling out of control. We had Tara Reid on the show yesterday from Moscow, and she was saying, well, she was living in Moscow. She's saying, I was feeling hopeful in the spring that we were about to maybe achieve some sort of a peace agreement. Putin just telling President Trump, I'm going to attack Ukraine. I'm going to retaliate. And President Trump was like, yeah, I think you
can't blame you. Retaliate from the fact for 2 things. Number one, they tried to kill him in his helicopter convoy with drone attacks. That took coordination, that took intel. Then they they successfully bombed the part of the nuclear triad with drones attack that they got cargo containers on Russian bases. Okay. And that's why the ambassador to England was like, look, we know that you're behind it. The ambassador's saying that. He has an office in London. Now this is what the host is talking about, what we just reviewed. Play on.
To do that, what do you make of that?
Well, I've done several hits on this, Clayton and Natalie, and I appreciate you having me on. Thank you so much. Look, it's extremely important that the pro-war people on the Western side of this, the Ukraine side of this, understand that the Ukrainians just attacked a leg of the triad, the nuclear triad of the world's largest nuclear force country. And the United States.
Your brothers want to respond to that? What he just said, and I think he's a former colonel. So that means he got to a very high ranking in the officer ranks. You can't get to even a lieutenant colonel unless you have done a lot. Yeah. He just said something that was so profound, and he said it so nonchalant. Please, what he just said is outlandish.
Pretty much what he's saying. That's like you going to the biggest, baddest guy in school and you just punch him in the face. Everybody knows that Russia is not to be messed with. But for some reason, this little small country they were sitting in the White House and Trump was like, hey, look, you guys, look, if it wasn't for us, you guys would have been out of the war. This idiot was giving you stuff. But you want to go and attack the meanest guy on the block. That's pretty much what he's saying. He said all nonchalantly, like, this is world news. Everybody know that Russia's armored to the teeth. But, hey, y'all want to go attack them? Okay.
He said the nuclear triad. So America, Russia, and China are the 3 countries it's talking about. You attack Russia with the Ukraine. Ukraine's known for wheat
Yeah,
and farming.
Yeah, they farmers.
They're farmers. You attack one of the world's largest armies with farmers. It just shows you how the U.S. is playing this game, because it is the U.S. that's behind it. Let's use them, because one, Putin's going to have a soft spot for them because they are their brothers.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not going to attack them readily. It's going to take a lot for him to actually do what he can do, and that's what we're seeing right now. He's still trying to hold back at this point.
And if we have more time, I'm not going to get it, but when you look at the list of nuclear countries that have the most nuclear capacity, Russia is in the lead by hundreds of nuclear bombs. Then it's the U.S. So what he just said as a former colonel, like, look, I don't know if people understand. The Ukraine, through the backing of, he's trying to be diplomatic about it, just attack the world's most powerful nuclear country. Look at Russia got them by, is it that much? Okay, well, about 400. So about 540, 36 more, which is a lot, they have. And the U.S. is behind them, and then China is behind them. And Great Britain actually is in the top 10 as well. I think Great Britain maybe 6 or 7 or something like that.
But Cap, I'm be brutally honest, that's probably just estimates. Let's say since January 2024. So they ain't stopped making them.
Right. So this is why from now on, when we talk about this is such a big deal that again, if any foreign power got on U.S. bases and attacked, let's say, for example, Area 51. We've all heard of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a place in the desert where they have missile silos, and right? If they attack that, or some of our B-52 bombers that cost hundreds of millions of dollars, the U.S. it would be on and popping. For Vladimir Putin to not strike back yet. Now they're bombing them right now, but they're doing conventional warfare. They're not using nuclear bombs at this point. The Lord has a special spirit on Putin, that he's holding him back to be patient. And he has to build up, because guess what? Revelation said the 10 horns have to get to the point where they broke up from NATO. Mm-hmm. The U.S. is no longer part of them, right? We're not there yet. That's why he's doing it to Putin. He's pacifying him. He's putting his spirit on him. Okay, play on.
Second largest. And you should expect that the leadership of that country is going to respond in a way that will make it clear that you don't mess with our nuclear forces. And yes, I understand that the Ukrainians have a right to attack those bombers because they're used to fire conventional missiles into targets in the war that they're in with Russia. But this is the difference, and why I've been talking about this since before Putin even went in 2022, and the concerns about that. And I've been attacked for being a coward, for being a nervous ninny. Putin, the other side says Putin's just saber rattling. He doesn't really do anything. But look, guys, he published a new nuclear doctrine last year that had a piece in it that said essentially that if a non-nuclear weapons power attacks us and they're supported by nuclear powers, and they attack part of our nuclear forces infrastructure or our nuclear forces themselves,
Pause.
that puts us...
That's exactly what happened this week.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
The proxy war, which is using a front country to do your bidding through arming them. Remember, every time Zelensky came around Biden, he walked away with billions and billions of dollars. For what? Not to beautify the country with bridges and highway infrastructure, for weapons to fight. Remember this? We covered the Storm Shadow missiles. They got various other, I forget the name of the missiles that they got from the U.S. They got the UK and Germany gave them certain Tomahawk, certain missiles. I forget the name of them. They all were long-range missiles that they used. Is that it on the video? Okay, let's leave that back up. Finish playing that.
Realm of using nuclear weapons in this new doctrine. So look, I mean, I'm simplifying it, but that's essentially what this attack has done. And make no bones about it, the Ukraine's bumper sticker is on this, but this is a NATO, United States attack. And what really surprised me and continues to surprise me is that the president's team says he was not notified of this. That tells me when Lindsey Graham and Dick Blumenthal, the name Dick, are in Ukraine, and then Pompeo goes over to Odessa and brackets the attack afterwards, that tells me that the administrative state, the national security state, deep state, whatever you want to call it, I call it the national security state, has basically gone around the president of the United States. If that in fact is true, now he may have been notified
And so we shouldn't be surprised if the CIA or other agencies go around and do things without presidential authorization. Here's the thing. Why are they doing that? Because the Most High is allowing all this to happen. That's the thing we got to understand. That's why in the world, if you get into politics and you get into, I'm a Republican, you could really get carried away about this stuff to the point where you start believing in it. Nothing should surprise you right now. And he starts launching more heuristic missiles throughout all of Ukraine and blowing stuff up. And then if they find out that London keeps supplying, guess what? They'll start shooting down missile productions in the UK. And once you start doing that, now, what's the difference? Put up article, when you attack one NATO country, type that in. Is it Article 51? I don't remember what it is. Whatever, the Ukraine is not a NATO country, right? Yet. If they attack London, England, or Portugal, or France, or Denmark, guess what's going to happen? By law, they're required, all of them, as a joint task force to fight Russia. Akiem is right. Read that, reader.
NATO's Article 5 is the cornerstone of the alliance, stating that an armed attack against one member state is considered an attack against all.
Yep.
This means that if any NATO ally is attacked, all other members are obligated to assist in their defense, including the use of armed force if necessary.
Right. And so that is very important to understand that, because that's where we're headed. We're going to head for a war where NATO is going to battle with them. But here's the thing. At what point will the U.S. be divided from them? Well, that's what we got to watch for. Like the brother said, we got to watch and pray. We don't know when it's going to happen. But we do know the prophecy is going to be fulfilled. They're going to hate the United States. There is resentment in all the European countries because the U.S. lives across that big, beautiful ocean. You blow up the Nord Stream pipeline, you made life hard for the Europeans. They're still right now getting a lot of cheap Russian oil. Right now, to this time, they bypass it. They'll buy it through India. They'll buy it through another middleman, if you will. They just can't buy it direct from Russia. They just buy it from someone else. Okay? Play on, and we're going to move on to the next time.
Right reasons is staying mum about that because that would inflame the situation even more and open up the continental United States to targeting from nuclear weapons potentially. But I doubt that he would be able to contain himself if he had been notified of this because he'd be talking about it. So I'm just very, very concerned. I don't think he'll respond with nuclear weapons, but I think the response is going to be so big that it will, because it has to send that message. You don't mess with our nuclear stuff.
Hey, one thing that all of these corners are showing, and all of these people that's in the military that was under the United States, they don't really go out in front and say it, but you got to read in between the lines. They showing you how wicked America is.
Right.
They showing you the evil that their own government is, even though they try to make it more diplomatic and they still love their country and all this and all that. Everything that America does, everything that Ukraine is doing, they saying is backed by America. So who's the evil? Who's really the evil guy? Who's really the mastermind behind this? It's America.
He was not a colonel in the British Army. He was a colonel in the U.S. Army. So this is a so-called the patriot, to your point, Officer Thomas. He's telling you, like, he's telling on his country because the evil is manifest to the point where you can't hide. They got to tell the truth. That's why when we get done with this one, we're going to go to Colonel McGregor and Scott Ritter. These guys, they're gonna really send this point home. Play on this one more time, Stan.
Great point.
Now, something that the president had hinted to in the campaign was possibly leaving NATO or making NATO states pay for themselves.
Pause. Now, why do I stop here? He talked about leaving NATO, meaning the United States paid 2/3 of the NATO budget, and they were paying nothing before. Some countries weren't giving anything. Now they're all paying 2% of the GDP. We read in the beginning of the show that Pete Heggs, whatever the hell his last name is calling for 5% GDP. Now she's talking, she's going to revisit NATO and how before Trump was talking about we're going to pull out of NATO. That was the seed that was planted. Okay, play on.
War continues. American taxpayers continue to foot the bill. Now, the Pentagon says that Pete Hegseth is heading to Europe to encourage each member state of NATO to pay at least 5% their GDP and pay their fair share. But right now, Americans pay almost 65% of NATO. So Europeans have this sort of arrogance about they want the war to continue, but they are dependent on America keeping it going. And so how can Pete Hegseth get them to change anything? And why would they? It's kind of like if your college student lives in your basement and you say you need to pay the water bill, you're not going to do anything if they don't. Why would they start to, right? Because you're not going to go without water. You're not going to, there's no point. So he can say, please, but we're going to keep paying for that.
Yeah, we have to withdraw the funding. That's the force and the power behind the president's public position that he ran on. One of the reasons I supported him. So
pause. What would make the United States stop funding NATO? Well, Most High God could put it in the heart of these leaders to stop it. Now that you stop it, you have these European countries that now come to the realization, wait a minute, why are we mad at Russia? What's the problem? The only reason why that we're fighting Russia is because the U.S. allowed this to go down. We got our victuals cheap. We got our resources cheap, our natural gas and our oil cheap. And Russia, now that I think about it, they really didn't have any problem. Who broke up the Soviet Union? It wasn't the European Union countries. It was backed by the U.S. All of that the Lord is going to put in their heart, they're going to realize, and then they're going to come together and they're going to hate the whore. Okay? So this is a little seed. With that, we got to run out of time. Go to Scott Ritter. There's a couple of really good clips. Scott Ritter is a former chief UN weapons inspector, United Nations. This guy was a Marine Corps officer, hardcore dude. They tried to set him up. They searched his house. He used to take trips to Russia. They said he was try to put him on a no-fly list. This guy, for Edomite, he tells the truth about his government, and they don't like his ass. But he's going to give a report of how serious this attack really was. And if you get a chance, I don't agree with everything he says. This guy, there's another guy named former Colonel McGregor, and these guys were highly, highly respected in their military careers, and now they're basically like, listen, this is all BS. Our government, they sent us to war for the wrong reasons. They never found weapons of mass destruction. This is this guy here. Now, you wouldn't know it because he's got a lime green damn T-shirt on, but watch what he's about to say.
Talking about, thank you very much for your time. So in your view and from your sources and analysis, who or what was behind the drone attacks that were visited upon Russia, and is President Trump's denials that the United States knew about this at all credible?
This is a British operation, British designed. It conforms with the British plan of keeping Ukraine in the fight and taking the fight to Russia. Remember, this was a plan that is supposedly a year and a half in the making. So politically, we go back to the time of Joe Biden. At that time, the United States was actively, using 20 CIA bases. Now, a base is a CIA center of operations focused on a particular activity. So you could have a CIA base that trains people in unconventional warfare, a CIA base that does, long-range reconnaissance, direct action. A CIA base that does drone warfare, other does explosives, agent handling, the whole thing. But they had 20 bases, which means they're pretty much covering the gamut. This is the CIA. During the Vietnam War, we had 16 bases. CIA had 20 in Ukraine. And so this British planning began when the CIA was very active in Ukraine, working for a commander-in-chief who had committed to the strategic defeat of Russia, using the Ukraine conflict as a proxy. So the CIA knew of this plan.
Can I get? I want to get something. Get Isaiah chapter 13, verse 4, and then I want to get
Bring it
verse
out.
11. Because really think about it. He said they were doing this when Biden was in office. So you think that Russia, they don't have this intel to actually know what's going on? The Lord is doing this. Read that for me.
Isaiah chapter 13, verse 4. The noise of a multitude in the mountains, like as of a great people, a tumultuous noise of the kingdoms of nations gathered together.
Read.
The Lord of hosts mustered the hosts of the battle.
So the Lord is turning all these things. He's mustering up this battle. They had people doing long-range missile reconnaissance, things of that sort. They were doing their homework, and they handed that homework off to who? Hey, we're going to let you use the Ukraine, but we got your back. Now jump down to verse 11 real quick.
Verse 11. And I will punish the world for their evil and the wicked of their iniquity.
Watch this.
And I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease.
The Lord is going to cause the arrogancy of those proud people. He's going to shut all that down. That's what this chapter is going into. Because the U.S., believe it or not, their hand is always tied into it, and then they're going to try to pull themselves out of the same thing they did with Germany. They start all the ruckus, and they throw a rock and hide their hand. And then now Trump is trying to save a sinking ship. It's not going to happen. Finish it off.
And will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible.
Who's the terrible? Who's always in everybody's business? That's why they left Britain. Why? They were being taxed. What is it? Taxation without representation? And now they're doing the same thing that the British are doing. But they in big trouble right now. You had something off to you, Maria?
Hey, I want to get Psalm 64 and verse 8. Start at verse 8.
Yes, sir. Psalms chapter 64, verse 8. So they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves.
This is what you're seeing right here with Colonel McGregor, with Scott Ritter, the other guy we just watched. They're telling on themselves. Read.
All that see them shall flee away.
Read.
And all men shall fear and shall declare the work of God.
All men shall fear and declare the work of God, because this is the work of God, what you're seeing going on, and them telling on themselves, because it is right here. Keep reading.
For they shall wisely consider of his doing.
Read.
The righteous shall be glad in the Lord. And
The righteous shall be glad in the Lord. We should be rejoicing when we see these things. Read.
The righteous shall be glad in the Lord, and shall trust in him. And all the upright in heart shall glory.
That's what we should be doing. We should be glorying when we see these things, and we should be trusting in the Most High, because he's doing this for us. He's making them tell on themselves for us, so we can see his works. We can see the Most High moving in these chess pieces, setting the stage for war.
There's some powerful scriptures, because and as much as, and this is why if you're carnal, you're gonna believe everything in the news. You're gonna be consumed with mainstream points of view. You gotta search for your news. You gotta search. You gotta connect this with this. You can't just turn to ABC like we grew up with, 4 or 5, and just take it for what it is. There's too many forms of social media now to get your news. Just do searches and track and look at different what's going on, and then cross-reference and go back. You have to do that. So there's 2 timestamps. Okay. All right.
Beyond. You don't carry out an operation of this complexity inside Russia unless you have long-term, covert assets embedded in Russian society. The British and the Americans both recruited significant numbers of people back in the 1990s during the downfall of the Soviet Union, the decade of chaos.
And that was very important, because do me a favor, type in list of NATO countries. And you're going to see that starting in the beginning and post-Soviet breakup, the number of NATO countries that continue to add, that we're close to Russia is astounding. This is a buildup of 35 years. We've covered this on many shows. Okay. See if you can get a list of the years. Because it's going to tell us what years. Maybe if you click on it, it'll tell you the year. Okay. Okay. I got you. So, that's perfect. Stay right there. That's good. That's good. That's perfect. In 49, you had Belgium, Canada, Denmark, IUIC, United Kingdom. So the UK was one of the original ones in the United States. Scroll down. Later accessions. Okay, Greece, Turkey. Okay, that's what I want. So Spain was the last major power, 82. Let's look at after 1990. Look at all the and let's look at the world map and how close that these countries are to Russia. So Czech Republic, remember that name? Hungary, remember that? Poland, remember that? Bulgaria, Estonia, Latvia, Romania. Those are all, most of them are former Soviet Union. So they broke apart the Soviet Union, which is right around Russia, then they made them NATO countries. And a lot of them were after 1991. Now pull up the world map. Let's just, in sake of time, focus in on Russia, Europe. Like blow it up like that. You know what I'm saying? A little bit more. A little bit more. That'll work. So, remember, the Soviet Union encompassed Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, all of those Stan countries. Now, remember the countries. Poland, remember that? Mm-hmm. We saw Romania. We saw, was a bunch of them.
Estonia,
Yes.
Latvia, Lithuania.
All of those are right on the Russian border. Before that, they were part of Russia because the Soviet Union and Russia is interchangeable. So after 1990, they kept, that's hence the name of the show, they kept encroaching. They kept going eastward to Russia. And now the last straw was Kazakhstan, which is on the southern border, right? And they never have a problem with the Asians. Mongolia, China, they never have beef with them. It's always the white countries. Mm-hmm. That's the ones they have the problem with. Their own doggone Edomite brothers, so-called. Okay? Go back to the... So all those... Look, and Finland and Sweden are also... was it Norway?
Norway. They're right there.
They're right on the Dome border. Go to the map again.
Yeah, they're right up there.
Yep.
So they all are in Finland, Sweden, all of these countries are around Russia's most western border. And why is that important? Because Moscow is right there on the west of Russia. So they know what they're doing. The U.S. and the founding members, two of the founding members, go back to the map again. To the list again. The Russian ambassador for London said, we know it's you with the United States. Look at the founding members, scroll up. Two of the major powers were the United States and the United Kingdom. Portugal doesn't have money like them. Norway doesn't have money. The three most powerful nations were France, UK, and the United. Those are the three most powerhouses. And Germany's not even in there yet, because they had the Berlin Wall and all that. Germany came later. Okay, that was 10 years after World War II. Okay, now go back to the video. We got about 10 more minutes.
Captain Matt used to talk about the game Go all the time. When you look at it, I think Alaska became a part of the United States in 1951? So it's all around the same time they started playing this long game to surround Russia.
Right. Same with Hawaii. They wanted to have something in the Pacific. And this is why Trump wants Canada to be the 51st state. It is a long game. It's a long game of strategic warfare. And now it's 15 years ago, 20 years, there's no drone warfare. Now drones are doing a lot of the fighting. Play on.
Clean them all out. They're everywhere. And the British provided some of these resources to enable the renting of a warehouse, getting trucks, configuring the trucks to specific technical specifications, bringing in the drones, providing explosives. Where do you get the explosives? You have to have an explosive
All
cache
he's talking
someplace.
about is our logistics. Think about it. You had to have the truck route. You had to have the ability to get him on base. You had to have the ability to create a mechanized opening, because those shipping containers don't normally open like this. They fabricated that. They knew that the drones, there's so many different things they had to factor in there. And this is why Scott Ritter's like, look, there's more than the UK involved in this. This is an internal Russian mission. And the reason why, like I said, when you see Russia start to attack the Ukraine in a major way, this is where you're going to understand that this is it's being downplayed by the U.S. press. That's why Trump's he's like, look, he's like, sometimes he's making light out of it. All right, the German chancellor's going, look, hey, U.S., you could do something about it. And Trump's telling stories about kids fighting in the schoolyard. It's strategic. The Lord he's smarter than all of us. Play on.
This was a British operation. They planned it. They executed it. The Ukrainians were simply the provided the manpower. The CIA knew about this. Whether or not the CIA played an active role in this, there are some legal constraints that the CIA can't do certain things without executive permission, and they would have to get new executive permission, new finding or something by Trump. And I don't believe Trump actually gave it to him, but the CIA was aware of it and they didn't communicate it up the chain. They may have provided some sort of passive, assistance in this, but this was an operation carried out. And this is the part that needs to scare everybody. A nuclear power, Great Britain, empowered a non-nuclear state, Ukraine, to launch a preemptive strike using conventional weapons against Russia's strategic nuclear deterrence. That violates at least two clauses of Russia's nuclear doctrine. When you violate the nuclear doctrine on the conditions under which Russia will use nuclear weapons, that means that you are creating the conditions for a nuclear war. Now, the British have taken the lead in saying that Russia is bluffing. And one of the challenges that
they said that, but we read and we saw some videos in the beginning of the show that they're preparing for a world war, and that they have drills that they're doing, how they're going to deal with the royal family, what if they hit the infrastructure, electrical, how they're going to react to that, because they know Russia's not bluffing. All of this is being done. The Lord, I'm telling you, the Lord, if we most allow us to live through this, when we start to actually see that the funding is pulled back from NATO and that they begin to join, and then the news, you'll start seeing stories about the UK and France and Germany, and then relations begin to get cut. All of that is coming to pass with the prophecy about how, in Isaiah it says, is this the man that did shake kingdoms, that everyone's going to look narrowly upon? All this is going to happen. And we're right at the end of the journey, y'all. And I know it's a lot of times this stuff, like watching this stuff, it's somewhat boring, because Esau is just boring the way they deliver. Jake is more animated. But if you take the time and listen to what he's saying, this is serious what's going on, okay? I referenced before, if you went to China and went to Beijing and hit their nuclear, China going to do something. You go to UK, go to London and hit major their submarine base or their fighters. The UK is going to go off. So they're like, Scott's like, look, hey, you attacked the #1 nuclear power on the earth. They rewrote in 2022 their nuclear clause. He just said it, if a non-nuclear country is backed by a nuclear country and attacks our nuclear triad, it is grounds for a nuclear preemptive strike. Not on the Ukraine, on the country that empowered them. They're not worried about the Ukraine. They're wiping the floor with Ukraine. Right. The Ukraine is in existence still because of the backing of the proxy government, which is the United States, America, and England. We're repeating ourselves, but play on.
Vladimir Putin today is, if he doesn't respond decisively, then you sort of hardwire in the notion that Russia is bluffing. Now, Trump and the Russians have released indications of what they talked about for an hour and 15 minutes I guess, earlier this week. The Ukrainians have put out their version of what they understand. In their version, Trump asked Putin not to use tactical nuclear weapons in response, and Putin said he can't guarantee that outcome.
You see, that's the point that people are missing.
Mm-hmm.
You can't keep poking the bear and then expecting the bear not to retaliate.
Right.
You can't keep having your allies supply countries who don't have those capabilities and then say, "Hey, look, man, yeah, they did it, but don't respond." They have to respond, because they can't just say we have this and we're not going to use it. They're going to use it. That's just what it is.
Facts. Play on.
I don't believe that Russia will use nuclear weapons, but the fact is Putin has to come up with, this is why this is taking so long, because the Russians have to come up with a retaliation that resets their doctrine. They have to put the British on notice that the next time you do this, it's automatic. London disappears.
Did you
how
would London disappear? When you do ICBM missiles and you tactically strike, even if you hit it with a small nuclear warhead, a city of 9 million people, you gonna shut down. If they attack London with the Haresnik style missile that comes down and breaks apart the 10, 15 warheads, and you hit strategically the major bridges, the major electrical grids or centers, you will cripple that city without even a nuclear bomb. So what he's talking about is this is going on right now. London is preparing for a nuclear attack, and we don't even understand what's going on. We really don't get it. They got it in the 80s. That's why when our teachers told us, get underneath your desk. I don't know if you remember that. Get under your desk. And we understood back then. And we had in my town I grew up in, they had sirens. They went off. Those sirens was not a fire alarm. The sirens was, this is a nuclear attack. And then people would go to the shelters, or people would go to the underground. Some people had bunkers that had more money, like little cement structure. And it was a whole thing what you were supposed to do in a nuclear attack. This was in the 70s and early 80s. And probably when y'all was a kid, even in the late 80s.
Yep.
So, go ahead.
To your point, Cap, that's because it was still fresh on everybody's mind.
Yep.
The Cuban Missile Crisis,
right. Yep.
when they parked 90 miles off the coast of the United States and everybody was at arms. Right now, this generation is safe and comfortable in this little bubble on this side of the world. They haven't been touched.
Yep.
And Russia you touched Russia. You went into Moscow, you went to the bases, you coordinated, all the logistics were in play. You attacked and destroyed billions of dollars worth of their nuclear triad. Again, I can't stress this enough. And this is why we got to think that we are the Most High people. And he's doing all this for us. So, and listen, this is what I say. In everybody's walk, you're going to have battle, man. You're going to have a battle in your walk. It's going to be, that's why I love Bishop's class. Personal trials, congregational trials. We're going through congregational trials right now. I know many congregations are going through trials right now. And then you got your marriage. In your marriage, you're going to have trials. Something happened to your wife. Something happened to your husband. Something happened to your children. Something happened at your job. You lose your job. And you got to fight in this system. And it's always going to be hard for us. You know what I mean? But we got to watch what's going on, and we got to get right. And despite how hard things get for us, we're going to finish it out with Scott Ritter. I'm not forget about McGregor. We don't have enough time. Has to be so severe. The punishment delivered to the Ukrainians so outrageous. And the rumor is now that they are even talking about that the guarantees they gave the United States, Great Britain, that Zelensky and the inner circle would be protected are gone. Putin just called Zelensky a terrorist. He called it a terrorist government. And there's only one way you deal with terrorists and a terrorist government. Unless, of course, you're Donald Trump and you shake hands with him and do business with him. But the traditional way of doing it. The joke he just made is with Syria, with Assad's government got toppled, and the de facto government was a former Al-Qaeda terrorist. And Trump's now he's opened up and lifted sanctions on Syria. That's what he's saying. Trump was on the terrorist international watch list. Now Trump is doing business with the Syrian president. When Assad, he was a physician, that they got him out because they wanted him out, and now they brought in a puppet government who used to be part of Al-Qaeda. Okay, they were hunting them in Afghanistan. Yes. And now all of a sudden, you're doing business. That's the joke he's making.
So, but he's saying Putin doesn't play like that. No. Now he's labeled the leadership in Kyiv, which is Zelensky and his parliament. He's labeled them terrorists. Things about to pop off. It's about this week. Watch the news. Watch the news. Watch the news this week. Matter of fact, tonight, Ukraine's getting attacked. Look at it tonight. Watch it tonight. Okay, play on.
And I believe that's exactly what Putin is going to be doing in the coming days or weeks. They're going to initiate a week-long campaign that's designed to take out the leadership of Ukraine and the strategic infrastructure of Ukraine, basically to turn Ukraine into the Stone Age without using nuclear weapons, but using weapon systems like Oreshnik that send a signal to Great Britain, NATO, and the United States that the next time Russia uses its strategic nuclear forces.
We're not going to even do the next timestamp. But what I want is this: type in the Oreshnik missile, and then pull up the world map. We're going to show you that. Yes, he launched from Russia to the Ukraine, which is only one country away. But the range on a missile like the Oreshnik can touch London, England. It has a huge range of the flight pattern can go hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles. It is an ICBM. Okay, read that, reader.
Yes, sir. Oreshnik refers to a new Russian intermediate range ballistic missile, IRBM, also known as
I'm sorry, it's not an ICBM, it's an IRBM. We got to get used to that. But it does not deliver a nuclear warhead. It delivers a conventional warhead, but it has the speed. And look up, I want you to do me a favor, John or Ak, get us the Mach speeds.
It's Mach 10. Mach 10.
But what I want is, hold up, I want the ranging of the Mach speeds, because Mach 1 is crazy fast. I want to show the levels. So this right now, Putin is justified right now to bomb London for what they did, and even DC, and he has the ability to reach them. Look up the speeds of Mach, and then we're going to close out after this. Okay, so let's read about the Oreshnik while we wait.
Hey, Cap, I just pulled up Mach 10 speed. It's 7,672.69 miles per hour.
7,000 miles. And if you look at the distance from, I know, let me look it up. The distance from Moscow to London. Somebody on their phone, look it up.
It's now 7,000 miles.
Right, and that's the point. They can touch them with an IRBM, not even an ICBM, an IRBM. It flies it over. Mikhail said 7,000 miles an hour. What is the distance from Moscow, Russia, all the way to London, England? No one.
It's 1,500 miles by air.
1,500 miles.
1,550.
No. That's
By
it.
air? It says the distance between Moscow, Russia, and London, UK, is approximately by air straight line great circle distance, 2,500 kilometers, about 1,550 miles.
Okay, so easily, and that means if you divide that in the 15 by 7, it's getting there in about 15 minutes. Yeah. It's ridiculous how fast. Now, Officer Thomas, because they don't follow roads, and if you drove there, it's a straight trajectory that will shoot in a straight line, if you will, a straight arc. So, okay, so it's saying, hold up, man, no, it's giving it, bro. Just go down a little bit. You're all right, right there. Let's look at the car ride. So it's a 32-hour car ride that you could actually drive, right? The missile, Thomas pulled it up. He's right. It's like 1,500 miles, roughly. So that IRBM could touch London in literally, if you divide, all you got to do is take the speed and divide it by the number of miles, and it's going to give you the time. It's probably 15 minutes or less. They can touch London. And it's going to come down at a speed of 7. You cannot stop that. No. And it flies so far up, and then it breaks apart, and they come down. Okay? Now, type in the distance. I'll come back to that. I appreciate that. Okay, there we go. So Mach 1 is 767. That's incredibly fast. Let's look at Mach 10. 76, 72, 60. That is mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. Now, real quick, that's an hour, right? Mm-hmm. Pull up, what is the distance from Moscow, and it might give you two routes, Moscow to Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. We're going to find that within probably 45 minutes, maybe less, they could, wow.
Yeah. Oh, it can touch.
So 4,860. So a little bit more than about 35 minutes, just based upon flight time. If they launched a IRBM, not even an IC, just a regular conventional, it could hit the U.S., D.C., in about 35 minutes. And all I'm doing is I'm taking the 6,000 miles an hour, and you divide that by the 48, and it's going to give you, it's not quite half, it's probably about 40 minutes that they're going to touch. They launch, they're not going to see it coming. They don't have the missile defense to stop it. They can touch, they can hit the electric grid in Washington, D.C. and shut stuff down. They can do that right now.
That's a 10. That's not, they got stuff higher than the 10.
Wow. Wow. And remember, these are IRBMs. This is what the Oresnik was. It's Mach 10 is mind-blowing. So again, they can touch London. They can touch Washington, D.C. The hell, they can touch California if they shoot the other way. Do me a favor. Let's type in this. Type in, last one, and we're going to go to Lardback. Type in distance from Moscow to Los Angeles, California. And they might actually do the arc above the Arctic Circle. And we're going to see how long this is. It's probably like 6,000 miles, something crazy like that.
9,000. Well, 6.
Okay, 6,000, right? So that's about 45, 48 minutes or so for them to touch the furthest city to the West Coast is Los Angeles. Los Angeles and Seattle. About 45 minutes or so, roughly, they could touch the most distant city from them. Washington was quicker than that. That means they could touch anywhere with non-nuclear warheads. That's how powerful their missile technology is. And guess what? The missile defense system, they have a 50% interception rate. That means they fire 10 of them, they have the potential to stop 5 of them. The point is this, is that Russia is so advanced that they don't need nuclear bombs to destroy major things in the U.S. And that's why Trump changed his tune when he came on and started talking to the German chancellor. So anyways, listen, y'all. A lot of this stuff is very dry. It's boring researching it. It's boring listening to it. I understand that. However, this is real. And this is going down right now. Russia's launching a war right now on the Ukraine. And by the way, I just got a report earlier today. I was listening to the news. And someone can confirm this. Maybe it's not. It's maybe a rumor that all of the all of the Russian ambassadors are being recalled from European countries. Somebody could look that up. I heard that on one of the news reports today, that all of the Russian ambassadors, right, to London, they're beginning to be recalled back home to Russia. Why would you do that? Well, it's kind of self-explanatory. But look, y'all, stick around. We're coming with the Lardback attack. Thank you for staying with us. We understand this is a lot of content, a lot of reading, a lot of listening, but all praise the Lord. We got to watch what's going on. So with that, stick around, y'all, all right? We're going to pay the first 3 minutes. That's it.
You can tell by my gait that I'm all in. You can tell by my faith that I'm all in. Front line with the truth, I'ma fall in. Even if it's a dead end, going all in. You can tell by the things I'm involved in. I can lose it all for my calling. If I die for the truth, it's a win-win. And going to the end, going all in. my calling. If I die for the truth, it's a win-win. And going to the end, going all in.
Hey, shalom, y'all. Welcome to, I'm Captain Shem. Welcome to the Laura Back Attack, where we go over health and we make fun of fat people because guess what? That's a choice. You being fat is a choice. It's not an option that you have to live with. This is why we have the thing set up where we don't want to be known as the fat camp. We want to be known as the fit camp. That's why the reds and the yellows have had 10 months and 1 week to get there. You haven't got there yet. Here's a little help to help you get there. And guess what? This is, many of you who are obese have heart disease. Many of you are on the way to having a stroke or a heart attack. The number one killer of black men in the United States, and for that matter, all the world, is heart disease, which heart disease will lead to plaquing of the arterial walls, which leads to a heart attack. Okay? Played it? There's no time.
One cause of heart disease is not what you think. I called up a heart surgeon, a friend, Dr. Philip Ovadia, and I asked, do you ever see this problem when you do open heart surgeries? And he said nearly 100% of the time. It's a type of visceral fat around the heart itself. What's unique about this fat
is this is very important. I showed this at men's conference, and I got a lot of brothers, and shout out to all the brothers. There are many brothers over this last 10 months who have already made it to the green. Many of them have lost 50, 80, some 100, 110 pounds. It can be done. And by you losing the 50, 80, 100 pounds, you're getting rid of much of this visceral fat. And a lot of you big brothers that's obese and morbidly obese, your heart has fat around it. He's going to explain. This is why it shouldn't even be a fight to get you lard asses. It doesn't even make any sense. You got this around your heart, and you're not doing anything about it. We got all the support system in place. Calorie deficit. Eat 1 meal a day. Cut out the sugars, carbs for a short period of time, which is 6, 7, 8 months. You could drop 100 pounds, and a lot of that is going to be fat that is around your organs. Play on.
Directly contacts the heart muscle and the arteries itself. So that means the inflammation from this type of fat goes directly into the heart first before any other place in the body. The big question is, what causes this layer of fat? And so the key to this whole story is insulin. If insulin is high, you're going to get really fat.
Pause.
You're going to start.
This is why I talk about this so much. People say, well, if I'm in a calorie deficit eating 3 to 4 meals a day and I'm a giant lard ass, that makes no sense. Your fat ass needs to eat once a day. The reason why is you're only going to have one insulin spike a day. You have to fix the hormone insulin. You have to fix it. What he's saying is true. When you eat your one meal, you fat back lard ass, let it be single ingredient whole foods, low sugar, like this. Say some ground hamburger or some fish, some salmon, or some sort of protein source that is a decent amount. Then low carb vegetables like broccoli, a big salad. Okay, you can have things like feta cheese and cheese that has zero carbohydrates and zero sugar. You can have things like Greek yogurt with berries. Why? The low fat yogurt has zero carbs, high protein. When you do these things and eating whole foods, you're going to be in a major calorie deficit, and you're eating once a day, which is going to correct your insulin. I understand why things happen. The Lord got his hand behind this whole thing. It is just so easy. This is why I really think fat people are weak people. I really do. I think that and I have to challenge you. I think that you're less of men, and I think you're less of women. I think you're selfish. I think that you do not possess the moral care about anything other than yourself. Because if fat people, and it starts with the men, were to get off their fat asses and do something about it and realize that they can do it, they can help other fat people that are weaker than them to overcome. That's the problem. You cannot build a nation with people that are sick and out of shape and unhealthy. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Listen, like I tell you brothers all the time, part of IUIC standard, everybody knows we're purple and gold, right? Black boots, we have a uniform. It is a standard of excellence. Don't show up with an unironed shirt. Put a crease in your pants. Your boots are relatively decent shine. The new standard is you must get into the green, which is a very merciful standard of 26.0%. It should be lower. That's the mercy. And a lot of you brothers, after effing 10 months, that's why I like people, I don't want to be around you. I'm telling you, I don't want to be around you. Shout out to Severus. Thank you, Captain. Thank you, Captain Abiel, for setting a great example for all the men underneath you, lard asses. Them are my brothers, by the way. I spend time with these men. They're horrible examples. Play on.
Weight, when insulin is low, everything is reversed. You're going to lose weight and get rid of fat, especially the fat surrounding the heart. This problem with the fat around the heart relates to something called insulin resistance. Very simply, the receptor for insulin is no longer accepting insulin. That's what insulin resistance is. And now the problem is, where does the fat go? Accumulates around the liver as a fatty liver, accumulates around the organs as visceral
Pause.
fat.
Everybody that is obese, and by the way, say a man that's, say, 6 foot, normally he should range between 180 and maybe 210 pounds. So he begins to be overweight. Let's just say it's 215, he begins to be overweight. And then let's say the number is 270 or 280 when he begins to be obese. When you start to become overweight, you begin to develop a fatty liver. When you when you are obese or morbidly obese, your liver is a fatty liver, and your heart is surrounded by fat. This is why it's a problem. He said, and this is true, if you look at heart surgeons, what is the number one killer of black men? Heart attacks. What do they find after they do open heart surgery, after they do the autopsy? Is in almost 100% of the cases, there is fat all in and around the heart. You fat, selfish lard asses can fix that. And this is the other thing is this. Shame on you to you women who are in shape and doing well, relatively good health, and your husband is a fat slob. You don't love your husband enough to help him to get into a relatively normal state of health. And also, shame on you brothers who are relatively good shape and have a fat back lard ass wife. And I've been holding back for the women for a long time. The day will come when the gloves are going to come off. And you weak, soft men allow your wives to be morbidly obese, and it's been 5 years, 10 years, you're weak. I don't look at you like a soldier. I look at you like a liability. Because when your wife or your husband dies, now you're going to be sad and you're going to be no good. And then you're going to be thinking all the regret. I should have did this. I should have tried, man. I know that I would have made her feel uncomfortable, made him feel uncomfortable, but I should have tried harder. And you're a fat ass. Well, not you, because you'd be skinny at that point. You will have to live with the regret for the rest of your life, knowing you could have applied the scriptures and helped save your wife or your husband. You're going to live with that. And I ain't going to be sorry about it, because I'm trying to raise hell right now to everybody in Israel to lose weight. The ones that are listening, they already got to the green. They're already working. They're working it out. The ones that don't, you show up to Men's Conference 2025, I'm going to have absolute no mercy at all. I am pushing this thing all the way to the top. And I pray the Lord, he sets standards. And that's the love you fat people need. Is when someone ain't playing with you no more, and the standards, you don't fit the standard, sit your ass down until you meet the standard. Now, I'm making that's my personal hope, and I'm allowed to have that personal hope. And whatever happens, the Lord going to be behind us. So anyways, stop the video. We're done. I'm telling y'all, brothers, you still have 50, 60 days, whatever. You can do a lot in a couple of months. You can do a real lot. There's a thing called dry fasting, which is biblical fasting. There's a thing called water fasting. Brothers that want to lose weight, talk to your doctor. Some brothers I know right now are doing this. They're doing one meal a day, and then the next day they're skipping and doing a water fast, right? So they can have like black coffee, they can have electrolyte packets, they can have Himalayan salt and water, right? So they do one meal a day, low carb, healthy. Then they do water fast. The next day they'll do another one meal. Then they do a water fast. And these guys are healthy, strong, still work, and they're dropping fat like you wouldn't believe. Why? They're in a major calorie deficit, and their bodies they're fixing their insulin because they're eating once every 2 days. But they're still eating a big meal. The point is this YouTube University, there's so much information you brothers can do. It's just that you lazy. You weak, and I have to call you weak. You don't care about your people. You don't care about yourself, your nation, and you are a liability to us. Well, with all the pleasantries out of the way, Shalom, Most High, and Christ bless y'all.
You can tell by my gait that I'm all in. You can tell by my faith that I'm all in. Front line with the truth, I'ma fall in. Even if it's a dead end, going all in. You can tell by the things I'm involved in. I can lose it all for my calling. If I die for the truth, it's a win-win. And going to the end, going all in. Going all in.
Hey, shalom, y'all. Listen, a little bit of tough love. I know some of you don't take what I say personal. Why don't you do something about it? How about that? All right. So, listen, Officer Micah, we got the PayPal, which is right there. Y'all check it out. Donate to the Boaster Club. Or you can text the word GIVE to 646-982-3858. And we appreciate everybody that donates. All praise to the Most High. Y'all watch the news. Pray. Stay glued to these different non-conventional media outlets. Al Jazeera, you got Sky News, you got Routers, you have, you got to search, okay? There's Russian news stations. There's other Eastern European news stations. You can check it out. With that, brothers and sisters, we thank you. With that, we say shalom.
Shalom. You can tell by my gait that I'm all in. You can tell by my faith that I'm all in. Front line with the truth, I'ma fall